German Shepherd was crying under an abandoned car. What baby did next left everyone in tears. The sound of crying wasn't human, but 5-year-old Marcus knew it was the sound of something dying inside. What he did next would change not just one life, but expose a darkness no one saw coming. Before we begin this incredible story, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear it, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from right now. Marcus pressed his small face against the cold window of his mother's car, watching the rain streak down the glass like tears. The grocery store parking lot was almost empty at 7 in the evening, and the storm had turned the world into a blur of gray and black. His mother, Elena, was checking her phone, waiting for the rain to slow down before they made a run for the store entrance. "Mama, do you hear that?" Marcus asked, his breath fogging up the window. Elena looked up from her phone. "Hear what, baby?" "Someone's crying." Elena listened but heard only the rain drumming on the car roof and the distant rumble of thunder. "It's just the storm, Marcus. Sometimes wind makes strange sounds." But Marcus shook his head. His small fingers wiped away the fog on the window, and he peered into the darkness of the vacant lot next to the grocery store. There, among the weeds and broken concrete, sat an old car that had been abandoned for months. Its windows were shattered, its tires flat, and rust had eaten through most of its blue paint. The crying came again. This time, Elena heard it too. It wasn't the wind. It was a sound that made something twist in her chest, a whimpering, desperate sound that cut through the rain like a knife. "Stay in the car," Elena said, reaching for her umbrella. "No, Mama, I want to come." Marcus was already unbuckling his seatbelt, his eyes fixed on the abandoned car. Elena wanted to say no. Every instinct told her to keep her son safe and dry in their car. But something in Marcus's eyes, a determination she rarely saw in her gentle 5-year-old, made her pause. "Fine, but you stay right next to me." They stepped out into the rain together. The cold water immediately soaked through their clothes, but Marcus didn't complain. He held his mother's hand tightly as they walked toward the abandoned car, their feet splashing through puddles that reflected the dim streetlight. The crying got louder. Elena pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the rain and darkness, illuminating the rusty car. At first she saw nothing unusual, just trash and weeds growing around the vehicle. Then Marcus pointed. "Under there, Mama." "Look under." Elena crouched down, angling her phone's light beneath the car. What she saw made her gasp. A German Shepherd lay trapped beneath the vehicle, its back leg caught in a tangle of rusty metal that might have been part of the car's undercarriage or old fencing. The dog's brown and black fur was matted with mud and blood. Fresh wounds covered its body, some still bleeding. But it was the dog's eyes that made Elena's heart break. They were filled with a terror and pain so deep that it seemed almost human. "Oh my God," Elena whispered. Marcus was already on his knees in the mud, reaching toward the dog. "It's okay, doggy. We're here to help." The German Shepherd's crying intensified, its body trembling violently. It tried to pull away but couldn't move because of its trapped leg. Every movement seemed to cause more pain. "Marcus, don't touch it," Elena warned. "It might bite." But Marcus wasn't listening. He was staring at the dog with an intensity Elena had never seen before. "Mama, he's not mean. He's just scared. Look at his eyes." Elena did look. Despite the pain and fear, there was something else in those brown eyes, a plea, a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, these humans were different from whoever had heard it. "We need to call for help," Elena said, pulling out her phone again. But before she could dial, she heard voices. "What are you doing over there?" Mr. Garrison, the president of their homeowners association, was walking toward them with his umbrella held high. Behind him came Mrs. Whitfield and several other neighbors who had been in the grocery store. "There's an injured dog trapped under this car," Elena explained. "We need to help it." Mr. Garrison's face immediately hardened. He was a tall man in his 60s with gray hair and a permanent frown that had only gotten deeper since he'd been elected HOA president. "That's the stray that's been terrorizing the neighborhood." "Leave it alone." "Terrorizing?" Elena asked. "It's trapped and injured. It's been digging through trash and scaring children," Mrs. Whitfield added, clutching her purse tighter. "I saw it near the playground last week. It's dangerous." Marcus looked up at the adults, rain streaming down his small face. "But he's hurt. We have to help him." "No, we don't," Mr. Garrison said firmly. I'm calling animal control. They'll put it down, which is what should have happened weeks ago." The German Shepherd seemed to understand the hostility in their voices. It stopped crying and went very still, as if trying to become invisible. Its eyes darted between the growing crowd of adults, and Elena could see its breathing getting faster, more panicked. "You can't just leave him here to die," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "That's not right." Mrs. Whitfield laughed, but it wasn't a kind sound. "Honey, it's just a stray dog. A dangerous one. Your mother should take you home before you catch something from it." That's when Elena noticed something that made her stomach turn. Several of the adults were holding rocks, small ones, the kind you might find in the parking lot, as if they'd been throwing them. "Have you been throwing rocks at this dog?" Elena asked, her voice sharp. Mr. Garrison shifted uncomfortably. "We were trying to scare it away. It wouldn't leave." "It couldn't leave!" Marcus shouted, tears mixing with rain on his cheeks. "Its leg is stuck!" "You were hurting it when it couldn't even run away." The German Shepherd's eyes moved to Marcus, and for a moment, dog and boy just looked at each other. Elena saw something pass between them, a connection she couldn't quite understand. "How long has it been here?" Elena asked. 2 days, maybe 3, someone in the crowd answered. "Since before the rain started." Elena felt sick. 3 days. This dog had been trapped here for 3 days in the rain, and instead of helping, people had been throwing rocks at it. Marcus suddenly pulled away from his mother and crawled under the car before anyone could stop him. "Marcus, no!" Elena dropped to her knees, reaching for her son, but he was already beside the German Shepherd. The crowd gasped. Several people stepped back. Mr. Garrison pulled out his phone. "I'm calling 911. That dog is going to attack that child." But the dog didn't attack. It went completely still as Marcus approached, its eyes fixed on the little boy's face. Marcus moved slowly, carefully, talking in a soft voice that Elena could barely hear over the rain. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I know you're scared. I get scared too sometimes." The German Shepherd's tail moved, just a tiny movement, barely noticeable, but Elena saw it, a weak attempt at a wag. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out the sandwich Elena had made him for dinner, peanut butter and jelly, his favorite. He tore off a small piece and held it out. "Are you hungry? I bet you haven't eaten in days." The dog looked at the sandwich, then at Marcus's face, then back at the sandwich. Slowly, so slowly that it seemed painful, it stretched its neck forward and took the piece of sandwich from Marcus's small fingers. Its teeth never even came close to touching his skin. "See?" Marcus said to the adults who were watching in shock. "He's gentle. He's not mean at all." Elena's phone light caught something on the dog's neck. A collar, torn and muddy, but definitely there. "He has a collar," she said. "He belongs to someone." Marcus was examining the collar now, trying to read what was left of a tag. "There are letters, Mama. B. or something. The rest is gone." The German Shepherd made a sound, not quite a bark, more like a soft whine. Its eyes were still on Marcus, but now there was something different in them. Hope, maybe, or recognition of kindness it hadn't felt in a long time. "We need to get his leg free," Marcus said. "It's really stuck." Elena could see he was right. The metal had wrapped around the dog's leg in a way that would require tools to remove. The leg was swollen and bloody where the metal had cut into it. "The fire department," Elena said. "They can help." "No," Mr. Garrison said firmly. "We're not wasting city resources on a stray dog. Animal control will handle it." "When?" Elena demanded. "Tomorrow? The next day? This dog has been here for 3 days already. That's not our problem," Mrs. Whitfield said. Marcus looked up at the adults, his face streaked with tears and rain. "Why are you all so mean? He's hurt and scared and alone. Don't you care at all?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. Some of the adults looked away, others shifted uncomfortably, but Mr. Garrison's face just got harder. "Your son needs to learn that the world isn't a fairy tale," he said to Elena. "Not everything deserves saving." That's when they heard the bark, not from the trapped German Shepherd, but from somewhere in the distance, a specific pattern of barks that made the trapped dog's ears perk up despite its pain. An old man was walking toward them through the rain. He wore a worn military jacket and moved with the careful gait of someone whose joints hurt in bad weather. His face was weathered and lined, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "That's a distress pattern," the man said as he got closer. "Military K9 distress call." Everyone turned to look at him. He was focusing on the German Shepherd under the car, and his face had gone pale. "Sir, this doesn't concern you," Mr. Garrison started, but the old man ignored him completely. He pulled out a small flashlight, much brighter than Elena's phone, and shined it under the car. The German Shepherd lifted its head slightly, looking at the old man with what seemed like recognition. The man made a sound with his tongue, 3 quick clicks followed by 2 slow ones. The German Shepherd's tail moved again, stronger this time. "Jesus Christ," the man whispered. "That's a military working dog." "That's impossible," Mrs. Whitfield said. "It's just a stray." The man's name was Samuel, and his hands shook slightly as he knelt beside the car, not caring about the mud or rain. "See the way his ears are trained? The muscle structure despite the starvation? This is a trained military K9. He looked at the collar Marcus had found. B.R. Bravo. His name is Bravo. The moment Samuel said the name, the German Shepherd's whole body reacted. It tried to sit up, military style, but the trapped leg and exhaustion made it impossible. Still, the attempt was clear. "How do you know?" Elena asked. Samuel's voice was thick with emotion. "Because dogs like this are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in training. They don't just become strays. Something happened here. Something bad." Marcus was still under the car with Bravo, his small hand now resting gently on the dog's matted fur. "Mr. Samuel, can you help us get him out?" Samuel looked at the boy, then at the crowd of adults who had been so ready to let the dog die. "Yeah, kid. We're going to get him out. But first, someone needs to explain to me why a decorated military dog is dying under an abandoned car while everyone stands around watching." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the rain seemed to quiet for a moment. Mr. Garrison cleared his throat. "We didn't know—" "You didn't care," Samuel interrupted. "There's a difference." He pulled out his phone and dialed a number from memory. "Detective Brooks? It's Sam Morrison. I need you at the grocery store on Maple Street, now. I found one of the missing K9s. Yeah, the ones from the transport. He's alive, but barely. Missing K9s, transport." The words sent a chill through Elena that had nothing to do with the rain. "What do you mean missing?" she asked. Samuel's face was grim. 6 months ago, 3 military working dogs went missing during transport to their new handlers. Their vehicle was found abandoned. The dogs were gone. Everyone assumed they were sold on the black market. He looked down at Bravo. "These aren't just pets. They're trained in detection, protection, tracking. In the wrong hands, they're weapons. In the right hands, they're heroes." Marcus hadn't moved from Bravo's side. "Someone stole him?" "Yeah, kid. Someone stole him. And from the looks of it, he escaped and has been trying to survive ever since." Mrs. Whitfield had gone very quiet. So had Mr. Garrison. The rocks some of them had been holding had been dropped, forgotten in the mud. "The transport," Samuel continued, "was for dogs whose handlers had been killed in action. They were being sent to new partners or retirement homes. Elena's heart broke a little more. This dog had lost its partner, been stolen, escaped, and then been tortured by the very people who should have helped it. "His handler?" Marcus asked in a small voice. Samuel's jaw tightened. "Sergeant James Cooper, killed in Afghanistan 8 months ago. Bravo was with him when it happened. The dog tried to drag him to safety even after—" He stopped, looking at Marcus. "He was a hero, kid." Both of them were. Bravo made another sound, soft and mournful. Marcus wrapped his small arms around the dog's neck, careful not to hurt him more. "It's okay," Marcus whispered. "You're safe now." "I promise you're safe." But even as he said it, Elena noticed something that made her blood run cold. A van had pulled into the parking lot, its lights off despite the darkness and rain. It parked at the far end, and no one got out. Samuel noticed it too. His hand moved to his pocket, and Elena realized he was checking for something. A weapon, maybe. "We need to get the dog out now," Samuel said quietly. "Elena, call 911. Tell them we need police and fire immediately." "What's wrong?" she asked, but she was already dialing. "That van, it's been following me for 3 days. I thought I was being paranoid, but—" The German Shepherd had noticed the van, too. Despite its exhaustion and pain, it began to struggle, trying desperately to free its trapped leg. The whimpering turned to panic. "They're here for him," Samuel said. "Whoever stole him knows he's here." Marcus held Bravo tighter. "No one's taking him." No one. The crowd of neighbors had noticed the tension. Some began to back away, but others, shamed by the revelation of what they'd been tormenting, stepped closer, forming a protective circle. Mr. Garrison, his face red with what might have been shame or anger, stood straighter. "Nobody's taking anything from this parking lot without going through us." It was a strange moment. The same people who had been ready to let Bravo die were now standing as his protectors. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the realization that they'd been throwing rocks at a hero. Or maybe it was the fierce determination in a 5-year-old boy's eyes that reminded them what courage looked like. The van's engine started. "They're going to run," someone said. But the van didn't leave. Instead, it began moving slowly toward them, its headlights suddenly blazing to life, temporarily blinding everyone. In that moment of confusion, Elena heard Marcus's voice, clear and strong despite his fear. "Bravo, stay with me. I won't let them take you, I promise." The German shepherd, trapped and injured, looked up at the little boy who was the first person to show him kindness in months. And in that look was a promise too. A promise that whatever happened next, this dog would protect this child with its last breath. The van stopped 20 feet away. The doors opened, 2 men got out, and Elena's blood turned to ice. They weren't trying to hide. They weren't running. They were coming for Bravo, and they didn't care who saw them. "Everyone stay calm," Samuel said quietly, his hand still in his pocket. "They won't do anything with this many witnesses." But the look in the men's eyes said otherwise. These weren't common criminals. These were professionals who had come to retrieve valuable property, and a crowd of suburban neighbors wasn't going to stop them. "That's our dog," one of the men said, his voice carrying despite the rain. "We've been looking for him." "Funny," Samuel replied. "His military ID says different." The man smiled, but it was cold. Military dogs get retired, sold, rehomed, paperwork gets lost, happens all the time. "Not to dogs from that transport," Samuel said. "That made the news. Those dogs are officially missing, presumed stolen." The second man had been silent, but Elena noticed he was moving slowly to the side, trying to get a better angle. Her grip on her phone tightened. The 911 operator was still on the line, and she could hear sirens in the distance, but they were still minutes away. Marcus hadn't moved. He was still under the car with Bravo, his small body shielding the dog's head and chest. "You can't have him," he said, his voice shaking but determined. "He doesn't belong to you." The first man laughed. "Kid, you don't know what you're dealing with. That dog is worth more than your mother makes in 5 years. You think we're going to walk away because you say so?" "Yes," Marcus said, "because he doesn't want to go with you. He's scared of you." It was true. Bravo was trembling violently now, his eyes fixed on the men with a terror that went beyond pain. These were the men who had taken him, who had hurt him, who had tried to break him. "The police are coming," Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. "You should leave now." The second man finally spoke. "Lady, by the time the cops get here, we'll be gone, and so will the dog." He reached into his jacket, and Samuel's hand came out of his pocket. Elena saw the gleam of metal and realized he had a gun. Old, probably not fired in years, but a gun nonetheless. "Don't," Samuel said quietly. "Whatever you're reaching for, don't." The parking lot had become a standoff. 2 dangerous men, an old veteran, a crowd of neighbors, and a 5-year-old boy protecting a dog that couldn't protect itself. The sirens were getting closer. The first man made a decision. He moved toward the car, toward Marcus and Bravo. "Get the kid out of the way." That's when Bravo did something extraordinary. Despite the pain, despite the trapped leg, despite everything, he managed to shift his body. He put himself between Marcus and the approaching man, and from his throat came a growl that was pure military K9. It was a warning that said, "You touch this child, and trapped or not, I will end you." The man stopped. "Brave dog," he said, "but stupid." He pulled something from his pocket. Elena couldn't see what it was, but Samuel could. "Tranquilizer," Samuel said. "Marcus, cover Bravo's face, now." Marcus didn't question. He threw himself over Bravo's head, covering the dog's nose and mouth with his small body. The man fired. The dart hit the car's undercarriage, inches from Marcus's head. That's when everything exploded into chaos. Mr. Garrison, the same man who had wanted to call animal control, charged forward with his umbrella raised like a club. "You just shot at a child." Others followed. Mrs. Whitfield threw her purse. Someone else threw mud. The crowd that had been paralyzed by fear suddenly became a mob protecting one of their own. The two men retreated toward their van, but the sirens were almost on top of them now. Red and blue lights flashed through the rain. "Go, go, go!" one of them shouted. They ran for the van, but it was too late. Police cars screeched into the parking lot, blocking their escape. "Nobody move!" Detective Brooks's voice boomed through a megaphone. The two men stopped, their hands slowly rising. Under the car, Marcus was crying now, his tears falling on Bravo's fur. "It's okay. It's over. You're safe." But Bravo wasn't looking at the men being arrested. He was looking at Marcus, and his tail was wagging. Weak, painful, but wagging. Elena dropped to her knees beside the car, reaching for her son. "Baby, are you okay?" "I'm okay, Mama. But Bravo needs help. His leg is really bad." The fire department arrived minutes later. It took them 20 minutes to cut through the metal holding Bravo's leg. Every second of it, Marcus stayed with him, talking softly, keeping him calm. When they finally freed him, Bravo tried to stand and immediately collapsed. His leg was badly damaged, possibly broken. He was severely malnourished and dehydrated. But he was alive. "We need to get him to the emergency vet," one of the firefighters said. "I'm going with him," Marcus announced. Elena started to protest, but Samuel put a hand on her shoulder. "Let him. That dog won't let anyone else near him anyway." Look, it was true. Even freed, even surrounded by helpers, Bravo's eyes never left Marcus. When the paramedics brought a stretcher designed for large animals, Bravo wouldn't get on it until Marcus climbed on first. "I've never seen anything like it," the firefighter said. "That dog just met this kid, and he's already bonded." "Sometimes," Samuel said quietly, "souls recognize each other, even across species." As they loaded Bravo into the animal ambulance, Marcus holding his paw the entire time, Elena heard Mr. Garrison talking to Detective Brooks. "I threw rocks at him," he was saying, his voice thick with shame. "We all did. We thought he was just a stray. We didn't know." "Knowing shouldn't have mattered," the detective replied. "Cruelty is cruelty." The crowd was dispersing now, but Elena noticed something. People weren't just walking away. They were talking, whispering, looking ashamed. The story would spread. By morning, everyone would know what had almost happened here. In the ambulance, Marcus was still talking to Bravo. "The vet is going to fix your leg, and then you're going to come home with us. Mama hasn't said yes yet, but she will. You'll see. We have a big backyard and a soft couch, and I'll share my bed with you." Elena wanted to protest, to explain that they couldn't just take in a military dog, that there would be paperwork and procedures and complications. But looking at her son's face, at the determination and love there, she knew she'd already lost this battle. Besides, Bravo had chosen Marcus. That much was clear. The way the dog looked at her son, it was like he'd found his new handler, his new purpose. "The men who took him," Elena asked Samuel as they followed the ambulance in her car. "Who were they?" Samuel's face was grim. "Part of a ring that's been stealing military and police dogs for years. They sell them to the highest bidder, drug cartels, illegal fighting rings, private security companies that don't care where their dogs come from." "But why Bravo specifically? You heard me say he was worth hundreds of thousands? I was being conservative. Bravo isn't just any military dog. He's trained in explosive detection, search and rescue, and close quarters combat. In Afghanistan, he saved an entire platoon by detecting an IED that every piece of equipment missed. He has a sense of smell that's almost supernatural and loyalty that can't be bought." Samuel paused, looking at the rain-slicked road ahead. His handler, Sergeant Cooper, wrote in his last letter home that Bravo was the best soldier he'd ever served with, said the dog had saved more lives than most decorated veterans. "And now he's bonded with my 5-year-old, Elena said, not sure if she should be terrified or amazed. "Your 5-year-old, Samuel said, did something none of us adults could do. He saw past the mud and blood and fear to what was underneath. He didn't see a dangerous stray or valuable property. He saw a soul that needed help. They arrived at the emergency veterinary clinic, its lights bright against the dark sky. Marcus was already inside with Bravo, refusing to leave the dog's side, even as the vets prepared for x-rays and treatment. Dr. Patricia Reeves, the head veterinarian, pulled Elena aside. "Your son is remarkable. Bravo has severe injuries, not just the leg. There's evidence of beatings, possibly electrocution. The trauma this dog has endured. Most animals would be completely feral by now, but he's letting your son touch him, comfort him. It's extraordinary. Can you save his leg? We'll do everything we can. But even if we do, he'll need months of rehabilitation. And given his psychological trauma, he'll need specialized care. I'll pay for it," Samuel said, appearing beside them. "All of it." Elena turned to him in surprise. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. I served with men like Sergeant Cooper. I know what Bravo means, what he represents. Every military dog deserves to come home, one way or another." Through the window, they could see Marcus in the examination room. He was wearing a small surgical mask the nurses had given him, sitting on a stool beside the examination table where Bravo lay. The dog's eyes were half closed from the pain medication, but his paw was stretched out, touching Marcus's hand. "Mama," Marcus called out, seeing her through the window. "The doctor says Bravo is very sick, but he's strong. He's going to make it." Dr. Reeves nodded. "The leg is broken in 2 places, and there's ligament damage. Surgery will take several hours. Someone should take the boy home." "No," Marcus said firmly, having heard every word. "I promised I wouldn't leave him. When he wakes up, I need to be here. He needs to know he's not alone anymore." Elena wanted to argue. It was late. Marcus had school tomorrow, and spending the night in a veterinary clinic wasn't reasonable. But looking at her son's face, she saw something that made her stop. This wasn't a child's whim or stubborn streak. This was a soul-deep commitment, the kind that most people never make in their entire lives. "Okay," she said quietly. "We'll stay." The surgery took 4 hours. Marcus dozed in the waiting room, curled up on Elena's lap, but woke instantly whenever a nurse came out with updates. Samuel stayed too, making phone calls to contacts in the military and police departments, gathering information about Bravo's history. "Around 3 in the morning, Doctor." Reeves emerged, exhausted but smiling. "The surgery went well. We saved the leg. He'll need extensive physical therapy, and he may always have a slight limp, but he'll walk again, run even." Marcus was on his feet immediately. "Can I see him?" "He's still sedated, but yes. Actually, it might help. Dogs can sense familiar presences even under anesthesia." They were led to the recovery room, where Bravo lay on a large cushioned mat, his leg in a cast, IVs running into his front leg. He looked small and vulnerable, nothing like the fierce military dog Samuel had described. Marcus sat down beside him, carefully avoiding the medical equipment, and placed his small hand on Bravo's head. "Hey boy, surgery is all done. You're going to be okay." Bravo's tail moved, just once, just barely, but it moved. "He knows you're here, Doctor," Reeves said, amazed. His heart rate just stabilized. "It's been erratic since we brought him in." As the sun began to rise, painting the sky pink and gold through the clinic windows, Elena made a decision that would change their lives forever. "When can he come home?" she asked. Dr. Reeves looked surprised. "You're taking him?" "My son made a promise." "We don't break promises in our family." Marcus looked up at his mother with such pure joy that Elena knew she'd made the right choice, complicated as it might be. "He'll need to stay here for at least a week, Doctor," Reeves explained. "Then months of recovery at home, medication, physical therapy, psychological support. Military dogs with PTSD require special care." "We'll learn," Elena said simply. "Whatever he needs, we'll learn." Samuel cleared his throat. "I know some people, veterans who work with traumatized service dogs. They'll help." As they discussed the practicalities, Marcus stayed beside Bravo, whispering to the sleeping dog. "You're going to love our house. I have a big room, and you can sleep on my bed. I'll read you stories every night. And when you're better, we'll go to the park. But not the scary park where mean people are. A nice park where everyone will see how brave and good you are." The dog's breathing deepened, becoming more peaceful. Even in his drugged sleep, he seemed to relax at the sound of Marcus's voice. Detective Brooks arrived as the morning shift at the clinic began. He looked tired, but satisfied. The two men we arrested are talking. They're part of a larger operation, just as Samuel suspected. They've been stealing military and police dogs for 3 years. Will Bravo have to testify or something? Marcus asked, the question so earnest that despite the seriousness of the situation, the adults had to suppress smiles. No, son, but he's evidence of their crimes. We'll need to document his injuries, his microchip, create a paper trail showing he was stolen. But he can stay with us? Detective Brooks looked at Elena, then at the boy who hadn't left the dog's side for 8 hours. Given that Bravo's original handler is deceased and he's clearly bonded with your son, I don't see why not. There will be paperwork, but Samuel here has connections that can expedite things. Marcus turned back to Bravo, stroking the sleeping dog's ear. Did you hear that? You get to stay. And somewhere in his sedated sleep, Bravo's tail wagged again. The week that followed was the longest of Marcus's young life. Every day after school, Elena would drive him straight to the veterinary clinic where Bravo was recovering. The dog would hear Marcus's voice before he even entered the room, and his tail would start its weak but determined wag. "He's been waiting for you all day, Doctor," Reeves would say, and it was true. The staff had noticed that Bravo's vital signs were calmest in the hours after Marcus's visits, as if the boy's presence gave him the strength to heal. On the 4th day, something remarkable happened. Bravo stood up on his own. Marcus had been reading to him from his favorite book about knights and dragons, when the German shepherd suddenly shifted, planted his 3 good legs, and pushed himself up. The cast on his 4th leg scraped against the floor, but he was standing. "Mama, look!" Marcus shouted, and Elena rushed in from the waiting room, where she'd been filling out adoption paperwork. Bravo took one shaky step toward Marcus, then another. His whole body trembled with the effort, but his eyes were locked on the boy's face with such determination that it brought tears to Elena's eyes. "That's impossible, Doctor," Reeves said, entering the room. With his injuries, he shouldn't be mobile for at least another week. But Bravo didn't care about medical timelines. He made it to Marcus and carefully, so carefully, lowered his head to rest against the boy's chest. "He's saying thank you," Marcus whispered, wrapping his small arms around Bravo's neck. Samuel arrived that afternoon with news that changed everything. "I've been digging into the transport records," he said, his face grave. "The van that was carrying Bravo and the other dogs. The driver was found dead 2 days after they disappeared." Elena covered Marcus's ears, but the boy pushed her hands away. "I need to know. Bravo is my responsibility now." Samuel nodded, respecting the boy's maturity. "The driver was shot, made to look like a robbery, but nothing was taken except the dogs. This was a professional hit. So, these people," Elena began. "Are killers," Samuel finished. "The 2 they arrested aren't talking anymore. They've lawyered up. But Detective Brooks found something interesting in their van." He pulled out his phone and showed them a photo. It was a notebook filled with addresses, dates, and dog names. Bravo's name was there, along with 2 others, Ranger and Zeus. "They're still out there," Marcus said quietly. "The other dogs are still missing." "The FBI is involved now," Samuel said. "This is bigger than just our town. But Marcus, I need you to understand something. The people who took Bravo might have associates, friends who aren't happy that their operation has been exposed." Elena's blood ran cold. "Are you saying we're in danger?" "I'm saying you need to be careful. Vary your routines. Be aware of your surroundings. The police will increase patrols around your house." Marcus looked at Bravo, who was now lying down again, exhausted from his effort to stand. "They want him back, don't they?" "He's worth a lot of money to the right buyer," Samuel admitted. "A fully trained military dog can sell for $500,000 on the black market. More if they have Bravo's specialized skills. But he's not for sale," Marcus said firmly. "He's family." That night, Elena installed new locks on all their doors and windows. She bought security cameras that Samuel helped set up, and she started sleeping with a baseball bat beside her bed. Marcus, meanwhile, had moved his sleeping bag into the garage, preparing a space for Bravo's homecoming. He'd researched online about PTSD in military dogs, about recovery from leg injuries, about the commands used in military K-9 units, For a 5-year-old, his dedication was extraordinary. "Why do you care so much?" Elena asked him one evening as he practiced the hand signals Samuel had taught him. Marcus thought for a moment. "Because nobody else did. When everyone was being mean, when they were throwing rocks, Bravo was all alone. I know what that feels like." Elena's heart clenched. Marcus had always been a quiet child, preferring books to playgrounds, animals to other children. She'd worried he was lonely, but now she understood. He hadn't been lonely. He'd been waiting for the right friend. On the 7th day, Bravo was cleared to come home. The entire veterinary staff gathered to say goodbye. Over the week, they had all fallen in love with the gentle German shepherd who'd survived so much. Dr. Reeves had tears in her eyes as she handed Elena a bag of medications and detailed care instructions. "He's special," she said. "In 30 years of practice, I've never seen a dog with such a will to live. Take care of him." "We will," Marcus promised, holding Bravo's leash with both hands. The ride home was quiet. Bravo sat in the back seat with Marcus, his head resting on the boy's lap, his eyes taking in everything they passed. When they turned onto their street, his ears perked up. "Do you remember this place?" Marcus asked. "This is where you were before, under the car. But now you're going somewhere better." As they pulled into the driveway, Elena noticed something odd. Several neighbors were standing in their yards watching. Mr. Garrison was there, and Mrs. Whitfield, and others who had been in the parking lot that night. "What are they doing?" Marcus asked nervously. But as they got out of the car and helped Bravo down, Mr. Garrison stepped forward. In his hands was a new dog bed, expensive and orthopedic. "For his recovery," he said gruffly, not quite meeting Elena's eyes. It's the least I can do." Mrs. Whitfield approached next, carrying a basket of homemade dog treats. "I researched recipes for dogs with sensitive stomachs," she said. "After what he's been through." One by one, the neighbors came forward with gifts. Toys, blankets, food, even a certificate for free lawn mowing so Elena wouldn't have to worry about the yard while caring for Bravo. "We were wrong," Mr. Garrison said finally. "What we did, there's no excuse. But if you'll let us, we'd like to help make it right." Marcus looked at the adults, then at Bravo, who was watching everything with those intelligent brown eyes. "Bravo says thank you," he said simply. "But he's still scared of loud voices and sudden movements. So please be gentle." The neighbors nodded, ashamed but grateful for the chance at redemption. That first night at home, Bravo wouldn't sleep. He paced the house on his 3 good legs, checking windows, doors, sniffing every corner. His military training was in overdrive, securing the perimeter of his new base. "He's looking for threats," Samuel explained when Elena called him, worried. "He's been in survival mode for so long, he doesn't know how to relax." Marcus had a different solution. He grabbed his sleeping bag and pillow and set them up right next to Bravo's new bed in the living room. "I'll stay with him," he said, "so he knows he's not alone." Elena wanted to protest, but she saw the logic. Bravo immediately calmed when Marcus lay down beside him. The dog positioned himself between the boy and the door, protective even in rest. Around midnight, Elena woke to a sound that made her heart stop. Bravo was growling, low and dangerous. She grabbed her baseball bat and crept downstairs, her heart pounding. In the living room, she found Marcus awake, his hand on Bravo's back. "Someone's outside," Marcus whispered. Elena looked out the window and saw a shadow moving near their fence. Then another. 2 figures, trying to stay hidden in the darkness. She grabbed her phone and called 911, whispering the situation to the dispatcher. Then she called Samuel, who answered on the first rings despite the late hour. "They're at your house," he said, already moving. "I'm on my way." "Don't engage. Let Bravo do what he's trained to do." But Bravo was already in action. Despite his injury, he positioned himself at the front door, his growl escalating to a bark that Elena had never heard before. It was sharp, commanding, designed to alert and intimidate. The shadows outside froze. "Police are coming," Elena called out loudly. "I've already called them." There was a moment of tense silence. Then the figures ran, disappearing into the night just as sirens became audible in the distance. The police searched the area, but found only footprints and a dropped crowbar near the back door. Someone had definitely been trying to break in. "This changes things," Detective Brooks said. We're going to need to put a protective detail on your house." "For how long?" Elena asked, exhausted and frightened. "Until we catch everyone involved in this ring?" Marcus hadn't let go of Bravo through the entire ordeal. The dog, despite having barked himself hoarse, was still on high alert, his eyes tracking every movement of the officers. "He protected us," Marcus said. "Even with his broken leg, he protected us." "That's what he's trained to do," Samuel said, having arrived just after the police. "But more than that, it's who he is. Protector, guardian, hero." The next morning, Elena made a decision. She called her boss and arranged to work from home for the next month. She wasn't leaving Marcus and Bravo alone, not with those people still out there. The story of the attempted break-in spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was on alert. Mr. Garrison organized a neighborhood watch. Mrs. Whitfield started a phone tree. The community that had once rejected Bravo now rallied around him and the family that had saved him. But the real change came 3 days later, when Samuel arrived with unexpected news. "The FBI raid happened this morning," he said, his face bright with excitement. "Based on information from Bravo's case, they found a warehouse in the industrial district. Marcus, they found the other dogs." Marcus jumped up so fast he almost knocked over his juice. "Ranger and Zeus? They're alive?" "Alive and rescued, along with 6 other stolen military and police dogs. It was a major operation run by a man named Viktor Volkov. He's been selling trained dogs to criminal organizations for years." "Is he arrested?" Elena asked. Samuel's face darkened. "No, he wasn't at the warehouse. But they have enough evidence to put him away for life if they catch him. And they will catch him." Marcus looked at Bravo, who was listening to the conversation with his ears perked. "Did you hear that, boy? Your friends are safe." But Bravo's attention had shifted to the window. His body tensed, and a low growl rumbled in his throat. Everyone turned to look. A black SUV was parked across the street. It had been there for 10 minutes, engine running, tinted windows making it impossible to see inside. "That's not a police car," Elena said, fear creeping into her voice. Samuel was already on his phone with Detective Brooks. "We need units here now. Possible surveillance at the Patterson house." The SUV's engine suddenly revved, but instead of driving away, it pulled into their driveway. "Get Marcus upstairs," Samuel ordered Elena. "Now." But Marcus wouldn't leave Bravo. "No! If they want him, they'll have to go through me." The SUV's door opened and a man stepped out. He was tall, well-dressed, with silver hair and cold gray eyes. He walked with the confidence of someone who was used to getting what he wanted. "Mrs. Patterson," he called out, his voice carrying a slight accent. "I believe we need to talk." Samuel stepped onto the porch, his hand near his concealed weapon. "You need to leave, now." The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm here to make an offer. A generous one, $50,000 for the dog." "He's not for sale," Marcus shouted from the doorway. Bravo pressed against his side. "Everything is for sale, little boy. It's just a matter of price, 100,000. "You could offer $1 million, Elena said, stepping beside her son. The answer would still be no. The man's smile faded. "You don't understand who you're dealing with. I'm trying to be civilized about this, but that dog belongs to my organization. We invested significant resources in acquiring him." "You mean you stole him?" Samuel said, "and killed a man in the process." "Prove it," the man said simply. That's when they heard the sirens, multiple sirens getting closer fast. The man's eyes narrowed. "This isn't over. That dog knows things, has been places, that make him valuable beyond your comprehension. One way or another, we will recover our property." He turned to walk back to his SUV, but Bravo suddenly barked. Not just any bark, but a specific pattern that made Samuel's eyes widen. "He's identifying him," Samuel whispered. "That's the bark pattern for marking a target." Bravo recognizes him. The man froze, then turned slowly to look at the German shepherd. For the first time, there was fear in his cold eyes. "Impossible?" he muttered. "We never used him in—" He stopped, realizing he'd said too much. Police cars screeched into the street, surrounding the SUV. Officers emerged with weapons drawn. "Viktor Volkov," Detective Brooks announced. "You're under arrest for theft of military property, conspiracy, and murder." The man, Volkov, looked at Bravo with something like respect. "The sergeant trained you well," he said. "You remembered my scent from one meeting. Remarkable." As the police cuffed him and put him in a squad car, Marcus hugged Bravo tightly. "You caught him, boy." "You caught the bad man." But Samuel looked troubled. "Volkov has associates, partners. This isn't over." He was right. That night, Elena's phone rang at 2 a.m. The voice on the other end was electronically disguised. "Volkov was just the money man. The real operation is bigger than you know. Release the dog or face the consequences." Elena hung up and immediately called Detective Brooks. Within an hour, their house was surrounded by police protection. Marcus, unable to sleep, sat with Bravo in his room. "They really want you back," he said quietly. "You must know something really important." Bravo tilted his head, then did something unexpected. He walked to Marcus's backpack, the one the boy took to school, and began pawing at it insistently. "What is it, boy?" Marcus unzipped the bag, and Bravo immediately stuck his nose inside, pulling out Marcus's notebook. He then placed his paw on it and barked once. "You want me to write something?" Bravo barked again, then began a series of movements. He would touch specific objects in the room, then return to the notebook, clearly trying to communicate something. Marcus grabbed a pencil. "Okay, I'll write down what you touch." For the next hour, Bravo led Marcus through what seemed like a random sequence. He touched the map on Marcus's wall at specific points. He pawed at numbers on Marcus's learning clock. He even pulled books from the shelf, always returning to make sure Marcus was writing. When Elena came to check on them, she found Marcus surrounded by notes, looking confused but excited. "Mama, I think Bravo was trying to tell us something. Look at this pattern." Elena looked at the notes. At first they seemed random, but then she noticed something. The map locations Bravo had indicated weren't random at all. They formed a route, and the numbers weren't just numbers. They were dates and times. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Samuel! Samuel, get up here." Samuel took one look at Marcus's notes and went pale. "These are drop locations." Bravo was used to marked drug shipments. He knows where they were hidden. "But why is he telling us now?" Marcus asked. Samuel knelt beside Bravo, looking into the dog's intelligent eyes. "Because he knows these people won't stop coming for him. The only way to be safe is to give the police everything, to destroy the entire network." Detective Brooks was called immediately. By dawn, a task force was assembled. Using Marcus's notes, Bravo's intelligence, they began raiding locations across 3 states. What they found was staggering. Hundreds of kilos of drugs, weapons, money, and documents that implicated dozens of criminals in a network that stretched from local street dealers to international cartels. Bravo wasn't just a stolen dog, Detective Brooks told the assembled press conference 3 days later. He was an unwitting witness to one of the largest criminal operations we've ever uncovered. His memory, his training, and his courage have helped us strike a decisive blow against organized crime. Marcus and Elena watched from their living room, Bravo between them on the couch. The German Shepherd's leg was healing well, and his eyes had lost some of their haunted look. "You're a hero," Marcus told him, "a real hero." But their peace was short-lived. That afternoon, a woman appeared at their door. She was young, maybe 25, with red-rimmed eyes and shaking hands. "Please," she said when Elena opened the door. "I need to see the dog. I need to see Bravo." Elena was about to refuse when the woman pulled out a photograph. It showed a soldier in uniform with Bravo beside him. The soldier was smiling, his hand resting on Bravo's head. "That's my brother," the woman said. "Sergeant James Cooper, Bravo's handler, the one who died." Elena's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God. Please come in." The woman's name was Sarah Cooper. She'd driven 12 hours after seeing the news coverage about Bravo. "I thought he was dead," she said, tears streaming down her face. "They told me he disappeared after James. After my brother died. I thought I'd lost them both." Marcus led her to the living room where Bravo was resting. The moment the German Shepherd saw her, his entire body changed. His ears perked up. His tail began wagging frantically, and he let out a whine that was pure emotion. "Bravo," Sarah whispered. "Oh, Bravo, it's me." The dog struggled to his feet, cast and all, and limped to her as fast as he could. When he reached her, he pressed his head against her stomach and just stood there, trembling. Sarah dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around him, sobbing. James loved you so much. In his last letter, he said you were the best partner he could have asked for. He said you saved his life a dozen times over. She looked up at Marcus and Elena. How did you find him? Marcus told her the story, from finding Bravo under the car to the capture of Volkov and the uncovering of the criminal network. Sarah listened, her hand never leaving Bravo's fur. James would be so grateful, she said when Marcus finished. He always said Bravo was special, not just his training, but his heart. He said Bravo could sense good people from bad, that he always knew who to trust. She looked at Marcus. He trusts you. That means everything. Are you... Elena hesitated. Are you here to take him? Sarah looked at Bravo, then at Marcus, who had gone very still. The boy's hand was clenched in Bravo's fur, his face a mask of trying to be brave. I thought I was, Sarah admitted. I thought I'd take him home, keep him as a connection to James. But watching him with you, she smiled through her tears. James wouldn't want Bravo to be a memorial. He'd want him to have a purpose, a job, and it looks like he's found one. Really? Marcus's voice was small, hopeful. He's protecting you, isn't he? That's what James trained him to do. Protect the innocent. Sarah stood up, wiping her eyes. But I have a request. Anything, Elena said immediately. Can I visit? And can you tell him about James? Keep his memory alive? Every day, Marcus promised. I'll tell Bravo about his brave handler every single day. Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out a small box. These were James's. I thought, maybe Bravo should have them. Inside were military dog tags, not James's human tags, but a set made specially for Bravo, with his service number and unit insignia. Marcus carefully clipped them to Bravo's collar. They clinked softly against each other, a sound that made Bravo's tail wag. There's one more thing, Sarah said. The military wants to honor Bravo. There's going to be a ceremony next month. They want to officially retire him with full honors, and they want to award him the K9 Medal of Courage. It's the highest honor a military dog can receive. Will you be there? Marcus asked. Wouldn't miss it for the world. The month that followed was a whirlwind. The story of Bravo, Marcus, and the criminal network went national, then international. Interview requests poured in. Book deals were offered. Movie producers called, but Marcus turned them all down. Bravo doesn't like cameras, he explained simply. They scare him. It was true. The flash of cameras, the noise of crowds, sent Bravo into panic mode. His PTSD was still very real, very present. Loud noises made him cower. Sudden movements made him defensive. He still woke up whimpering from nightmares. But with Marcus, he was getting better. The boy had an intuitive understanding of what Bravo needed. Quiet voices, gentle touches, predictable routines, and most importantly, patience. Dr. Reeves was amazed at his progress during a checkup. His leg is healing faster than expected, but more importantly, his spirit is healing. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. What Marcus was doing was simple. He was loving Bravo without conditions, without expectations. He read to him every night. He shared his meals. He never went anywhere without telling Bravo when he'd be back. And slowly, the German Shepherd began to trust that this new life was real, was permanent. The neighborhood had transformed too. Mr. Garrison had become Bravo's fiercest protector, chasing away anyone who tried to bother the recovering dog. Mrs. Whitfield baked special treats every week. Children who had once thrown stones now drew pictures of Bravo as a superhero, which Marcus proudly displayed on his bedroom wall. But the biggest change came the night before the military ceremony. Elena woke to find Marcus's bed empty. Panicking, she searched the house, finally finding him in the backyard with Bravo. They were sitting under the stars, Marcus talking quietly, while Bravo listened. Tomorrow, everyone's going to call you a hero, Marcus was saying, but you've always been a hero to me. From the first moment I saw you under that car, I knew you were special. Not because of your training or your medals, but because even when everyone was mean to you, you didn't become mean too. You stayed good. Bravo placed his paw on Marcus's lap, a gesture he'd started doing when he wanted to comfort the boy. I know you miss your first partner, Marcus continued. Sergeant Cooper. Sarah told me he was brave and kind and funny. I wish I could have met him. But I promise I'll take care of you the way he would have wanted, forever and ever." Elena felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Her little boy had grown so much in these few weeks. His compassion had saved not just Bravo, but had exposed criminals, reunited families, and transformed a community. The ceremony was held at the nearby military base. Hundreds of people attended: soldiers, veterans, police officers, and civilians who had followed Bravo's story. Marcus wore his best clothes and stood tall beside Bravo, who was wearing a special service vest Sarah had brought. The general who presided over the ceremony spoke about Bravo's service record: 32 missions, 14 lives saved directly, countless others saved through his detection work, 3 Purple Hearts for injuries sustained in combat. But perhaps his greatest act of heroism, the general said, came after his service when he helped expose a criminal network that was poisoning our communities. Even abandoned, injured, and traumatized, Bravo continued to serve. When they called Bravo forward to receive his medal, Marcus walked with him. The German Shepherd limped slightly, but his head was high, his bearing military perfect. As the medal was placed around his neck, the entire crowd stood and applauded. But the most moving moment came when Sarah spoke. "My brother wrote me once that Bravo wasn't just his partner, but his conscience. When things got dark, when the mission seemed impossible, Bravo reminded him why they were there, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves." She looked at Marcus. "That mission continues now with a new handler, one who may be young in years, but has shown the kind of courage my brother would have admired." She handed Marcus something, James's service pin. "James would want you to have this. You've earned it." Marcus looked at the pin, then at Bravo, then at the crowd. When he spoke, his voice was clear and strong. "Bravo taught me something important. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. He was scared under that car, but he still trusted me. He was scared of the bad men, but he still protected us. He shows me every day that love is stronger than fear." There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. As they were leaving the ceremony, Detective Brooks approached with news. "We've arrested the last members of Volkov's network. It's over. Bravo is safe." Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders that she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. Really over? Really? Bravo's intelligence led us to evidence that will keep these people in prison for decades. He's done his duty. Now he can just be a dog. That night, for the first time since coming home, Bravo truly relaxed. He sprawled on the living room floor, his belly up, his legs in the air, looking utterly ridiculous and completely at peace. "Look, Mama," Marcus laughed. "He's being silly." It was true. The warrior dog, the hero, the traumatized survivor, was finally allowing himself to just be, to play, to be loved without having to earn it. Over the following months, Bravo's transformation was remarkable. His leg healed completely, leaving only a slight limp that gave him what Samuel called a distinguished swagger. His nightmares decreased, his fear of crowds lessened, and his bond with Marcus deepened into something that amazed everyone who witnessed it. They became a fixture in the community, Marcus and Bravo visiting schools to teach children about kindness to animals. They went to veteran hospitals, where Bravo seemed to instinctively know which patients needed comfort most. They even worked with the police department, helping to identify and rescue other stolen service dogs. But the most important work they did was simpler. They showed people that healing was possible, that trust could be rebuilt, that love could overcome trauma. 1 year after that night in the parking lot, Elena organized a celebration. She invited everyone: Sarah, Samuel, Detective Brooks, Doctor, Reeves, even Mr. Garrison, and Mrs. Whitfield. The backyard was decorated with pictures from Bravo's journey, from the first photo Elena had taken of him trapped under the car to one from just that morning of him and Marcus playing fetch. "A year ago," Elena said, raising her glass of lemonade, "my son taught me something profound. He taught me that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change the world. He saw a dog that everyone else had written off and decided to love him. And look what that love has accomplished. She listed it all. The criminal network destroyed. Dozens of stolen dogs rescued and reunited with their handlers. A community transformed from indifference to compassion. And most importantly, a broken dog made whole again." "But I got the best part," Marcus said, his arm around Bravo's neck. "I got a best friend." Sarah stood up next. I need to share something. James kept a journal in Afghanistan. I've been reading it since Bravo came back into my life. There's an entry from just a week before he died. He wrote, "If something happens to me, I hope Bravo finds someone who will love him the way he deserves. Someone who sees past the soldier to the soul underneath. Someone who understands that he's not just a dog, but a guardian angel in fur." She looked at Marcus. He found exactly what James wanted for him. He found you. As the sun set on the celebration, Marcus and Bravo sat together on the porch steps. The boy was now 6.5, taller and more confident than he'd been a year ago. Bravo's muzzle had a few gray hairs now, and his eyes had lost their clouded pain, replaced by a warm contentment. "You know what?" Marcus said to his dog. "We should write a book. Tell everyone our story so they know that every dog deserves a chance." "What do you think?" Bravo barked once, his tail wagging. "I'll take that as a yes." But their story wasn't quite over. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived from the Pentagon. It was addressed to Marcus Patterson, guardian of MWD Bravo. Inside was an invitation. The president wanted to meet them. Bravo was to be honored at the White House as part of a ceremony recognizing exceptional service animals. "The White House!" Marcus exclaimed. "Bravo! We're going to meet the president." The trip to Washington, D.C. was an adventure in itself. Bravo had never been on a plane before, at least not as a passenger rather than military cargo. But with Marcus beside him, whispering constantly that everything was okay, he managed the flight with only minor anxiety. The White House ceremony was beautiful. 7 service animals were being honored: military dogs, police dogs, even a search and rescue cat. But when the president told Bravo's story, the room fell silent. "This dog represents the best of service," the president said. "He served in war, survived trauma, helped bring down criminals, and now helps heal others who have suffered. But perhaps most importantly, he reminded us that sometimes it takes the innocent eyes of a child to see true worth." The president looked at Marcus. "Young man, you did what adults failed to. You saw past the surface to the hero underneath. You remind us all that compassion is not weakness, but the greatest strength." After the ceremony, as they were touring the White House grounds, an aide approached them with an unexpected request. "There's someone who wants to meet you," she said, "if you have time." She led them to a quiet garden where an elderly man sat in a wheelchair. He wore a veteran's cap covered in pins and badges. His hands shook slightly and his eyes were misty. "Bravo!" he said, his voice trembling. "Is that really you?" The German Shepherd's reaction was immediate and dramatic. He pulled away from Marcus, something he never did, and ran to the wheelchair. He was crying. There was no other word for it, making sounds Marcus had never heard before. "I'm Colonel Mitchell," the man said, tears now flowing freely. "I was Sergeant Cooper's commanding officer. I was there when we lost him. Bravo was with him at the end." He looked at Marcus and Elena. "This dog held off enemy combatants for 2 hours, protecting James's body. He wouldn't let anyone near him, not even our own medics, until he was sure it was safe. He was shot twice himself, but never left James's side." The colonel's weathered hand stroked Bravo's head. "We tried to keep him, to rehome him with another handler, but he was so traumatized. Then he disappeared during transport, and we thought we'd lost him forever." He looked at Marcus. "You saved him. You did what we couldn't. You brought him home." Marcus felt tears on his own cheeks. "He saved me too, sir. Before Bravo, I didn't have any friends. I was the weird kid who liked books more than sports, but Bravo showed me that being different isn't bad. It's what makes us special." The colonel smiled. "James would have liked you. He was the same way. More interested in understanding than fighting. He joined the military to protect people, not to hurt them. That's why he and Bravo were such perfect partners." As they prepared to leave, the colonel handed Marcus a box. "These are James's medals. Sarah said you should have them, to remember that Bravo's first handler was a hero too." The flight home was quiet. Marcus held the box of medals while Bravo slept with his head on the boy's lap. Elena watched them both, marveling at how much their lives had changed. Back home, they found their house surrounded by neighbors and reporters. The story of the White House visit had already made the news. But Marcus didn't want to talk to reporters. He just wanted to go home, to return to the quiet life he and Bravo had built. That evening, as had become their tradition, Marcus and Bravo sat in the backyard looking at the stars. The medals, both James's and Bravo's, lay between them. "I've been thinking," Marcus said, "about what Colonel Mitchell said. About you protecting Sergeant Cooper even after he died. That must have been so hard." Bravo moved closer, pressing against Marcus's side. "But you did it because you loved him. And now you protect me because you love me too. That's what love does, isn't it? It makes us brave." A shooting star streaked across the sky. Marcus closed his eyes and made a wish that every abandoned dog would find someone to love them, that every child who felt different would find their Bravo. When he opened his eyes, Bravo was looking at him with such intensity that Marcus knew, somehow, that the dog had made the same wish. The next morning brought unexpected news. The story of Bravo and Marcus had inspired a movement. Across the country, people were adopting abandoned dogs, especially those with disabilities or trauma. Animal shelters reported record adoptions. Veterans organizations were creating programs to match retired military dogs with families. "You did this?" Elena told Marcus, showing him the news articles. "You and Bravo started something amazing." But Marcus was focused on something else. Bravo had been restless all morning, pacing and whining, constantly returning to the window. "What's wrong, boy?" Marcus asked. Then they heard it, barking. Not just any barking, but the same pattern Bravo used, the military distress call. Samuel arrived within minutes of Elena's call. "That's definitely a trained pattern. There's another military dog out there, and it's in trouble." They followed the sound, Bravo leading despite his slight limp. The barking led them 3 blocks away to an abandoned house that was scheduled for demolition. In the basement, chained and barely alive, was another German shepherd. This one was younger, female, and in terrible condition. "That's Athena," Samuel breathed. "She was on the same transport as Bravo. We thought she was dead. The rescue was complicated. Athena was terrified, aggressive, snapping at anyone who came close. Everyone except Bravo. The older dog approached slowly, making soft sounds, and gradually Athena calmed. "He's telling her it's safe," Marcus said. "He's telling her we're good people." It took 3 hours to free Athena and get her to the veterinary clinic. She was severely malnourished, dehydrated, and had infected wounds, but she was alive. "She's going to need the same kind of care Bravo did," Dr. Reeves said. "Maybe more. She's younger, which means she might be more resilient, but also more traumatized." "We'll take her," Marcus said immediately. Elena started to protest. They couldn't take in every traumatized dog. But then she saw how Bravo was with Athena. He hadn't left her side, was gently grooming her face, comforting her in a way that only another dog who'd been through the same trauma could. "Okay," Elena said, "but this is it. 2 dogs is our limit," Marcus grinned. "Bravo needs a friend who understands him, and we have experience now." The recovery process with Athena was different from Bravo's. She was younger, more reactive, more fearful. But having Bravo there made all the difference. He showed her that the food was safe, that the humans were kind, that the soft bed was really hers. Within a month, Athena was following Bravo everywhere, copying his behaviors, learning from him. And Bravo seemed to stand taller, proud of his role as mentor and protector. "He's teaching her everything," Marcus observed. "How to trust, how to play, how to be a dog again." The story of Athena's rescue added another chapter to Marcus and Bravo's legend. More military dogs were found and rescued based on intelligence from the captured criminals. Each one was placed with carefully vetted families, many of them inspired by Marcus's example. 6 months later, at Marcus's 7th birthday party, the backyard was full of dogs and children. Bravo and Athena were the centers of attention, wearing matching party hats that they tolerated with patient dignity. Sarah was there, along with Samuel, Detective Brooks, and Dr. Reeves. Even Mr. Garrison and Mrs. Whitfield attended, bringing homemade dog treats and toys. "Make a wish," Elena said, as Marcus prepared to blow out his candles. Marcus looked around at the gathering, at Bravo and Athena, at the friends who had become family, at the community that had been transformed. He closed his eyes, but then opened them again. "I don't need to wish for anything," he said. "Everything I wanted already came true." But life had one more surprise in store. A week after the party, an official-looking envelope arrived addressed to Marcus. Inside was a letter from the Department of Defense. "Dear Mr. Patterson," it read, "in recognition of your extraordinary service in the rescue and rehabilitation of military working dogs and your role in exposing criminal networks that threatened our nation's security, we would like to offer you a special position. Upon reaching the age of 18, should you choose to accept, you will be guaranteed placement in our military working dog program as a trainer and handler. Your unique understanding of these animals and your proven courage make you exactly the kind of person our program needs." It was signed by the Secretary of Defense. "They want me to work with military dogs when I grow up," Marcus said in wonder. "That's 11 years away," Elena pointed out. "You might change your mind." Marcus looked at Bravo and Athena, who were lying in a patch of sunlight, content and safe. "No," he said with certainty. "This is what I'm supposed to do. Bravo showed me. Sometimes you just know." That night, as Marcus read to both dogs from his new favorite book, a story about a boy and his dragon that he'd written himself, Elena stood in the doorway watching. Her son had found his purpose at 7 years old, and it had all started with a moment of compassion in a parking lot. The news eventually died down. The reporters stopped calling. Life returned to a new kind of normal. Marcus went to school, where he was no longer the weird, quiet kid, but the boy who'd saved Bravo. He had friends now, kids who understood that being kind was actually cool. Bravo and Athena became certified therapy dogs, visiting hospitals and nursing homes. They had a special gift for finding the people who needed them most: the veteran with PTSD, who hadn't spoken in months, the child afraid of surgery, the elderly woman who'd lost her own dog. But the most meaningful visits were to the military base, where they worked with soldiers returning from deployment. These men and women would see Bravo's scars, hear his story, and understand that healing was possible. One day, a young soldier approached Marcus after a therapy session. He was maybe 20, with haunted eyes and hands that shook. "Your dog," he said. "He was Sergeant Cooper's partner." "You knew him?" Marcus asked. "He saved my life, 3 times, and Bravo was always there, always protecting us." The soldier knelt down, and Bravo immediately moved to him, resting his head on the young man's shoulder. "I came back, but part of me stayed over there. Seeing Bravo, knowing he made it, maybe I can too." Marcus put his hand on the soldier's arm. Bravo had really bad dreams for a long time. Sometimes he still does, but every day gets a little better. "You will too." The soldier nodded, tears streaming down his face as he buried it in Bravo's fur. These moments, quiet, powerful, transformative, happened regularly. Bravo and Athena weren't just therapy dogs. They were living proof that trauma didn't have to be the end of the story. 2 years passed. Marcus was now 9, more confident and articulate. He'd started writing a blog about Bravo and Athena, sharing their daily adventures and the lessons they taught. The blog had thousands of followers, people from around the world who found hope in their story. One post particularly resonated. "People ask me if I saved Bravo. The truth is, we saved each other. I was a lonely kid who didn't fit in. He was a hero who'd lost everything. But together, we found something new. Not a replacement for what was lost, but something different and beautiful in its own way. That's what rescue really means. Not just pulling someone from danger, but helping them find a new purpose, a new reason to keep going." The post went viral, shared millions of times. It reached someone unexpected, a Hollywood producer who wanted to make their story into a movie. "We'll donate half the profits to military dog rescue organizations," the producer promised. Marcus looked at Bravo, who was now showing his age a bit more. Gray had spread from his muzzle up around his eyes. He moved a little slower, but his spirit was as strong as ever. "What do you think, boy? Want to be a movie star?" Bravo tilted his head, then walked over to his favorite sunny spot and lay down. His message was clear. Fame wasn't important. This life, this family, this purpose, that was everything. Marcus turned back to the producer. "Thanks, but no. Our story isn't finished yet. Maybe someday when Bravo's ready to retire. But right now, we have work to do." The producer left disappointed, but impressed. How many 9-year-olds would turn down Hollywood? But Marcus had learned from Bravo that the real rewards in life weren't fame or money. They were the quiet moments. Bravo's head on his lap during homework, Athena's excited dance when he came home from school, the grateful eyes of a veteran who found hope in their story. One autumn day, Sarah called with unexpected news. She was getting married, and she wanted Marcus to be in the wedding. More importantly, she wanted Bravo to be the ring bearer. He was the last connection to James, she explained. Having him there, it's like having my brother's blessing. The wedding was beautiful. Bravo, wearing a special bow tie, carried the rings down the aisle with perfect military precision. When Sarah's new husband, also a veteran, knelt to thank Bravo, the dog placed his paw on the man's hand, a gesture of acceptance that made everyone cry. At the reception, Marcus gave a speech that would be remembered by everyone present. Bravo taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when you're scared and alone. It's about who sees your worth when everyone else sees your flaws. Sarah lost her brother, but she didn't lose her family, because family is bigger than we think. It includes the dogs who protect us, the strangers who become friends, and the love that connects us all. As Marcus grew older, his bond with Bravo only deepened. They developed an almost telepathic understanding. Marcus could read every ear twitch, every tail position. Bravo seemed to know what Marcus needed before he asked. When Marcus was 11, Bravo's age began to show more clearly. He was 13 now, elderly for a German shepherd. His back legs were weaker. He slept more. But his devotion to Marcus never wavered. "We need to start thinking about the future," Elena said gently one evening. Marcus nodded. He'd been thinking about it too. "I know he won't be here forever. But that's not what matters. What matters is that he's here now." They began making a bucket list for Bravo. Visit the ocean, go camping, meet the new military dogs at the base. Simple things, but meaningful. The ocean trip was magical. Bravo, who'd never seen the sea, stood at the edge of the water with wonder in his eyes. When a wave washed over his paws, he barked in surprise, then play-bowed for the first time in years. Marcus had never seen him so joyful. "He's still got puppy in him," Elena laughed, watching Bravo chase seagulls with Athena. They stayed at the beach for a week. Every morning, Bravo would wake Marcus early, eager to return to the water. They built sandcastles, collected shells, and watched sunsets. It was perfect. But life has a way of interrupting perfect moments. They returned home to find Detective Brooks waiting with urgent news. "We've intercepted communications about a new dog fighting ring. They're specifically targeting former military and police dogs. We think they might come for Bravo and Athena." The old fear returned. Marcus felt it like ice in his veins. "I thought this was over," Elena said. "These are different people, copycats inspired by Volkov's operation. But we're ready for them." Security was increased again. But this time, Marcus wasn't scared. He looked at Bravo, old but still strong, and Athena, young and fierce, and knew they could handle anything together. The attack came 3 nights later, but the criminals hadn't counted on Athena. While Bravo's age had slowed him, Athena was in her prime. She detected the intruders before they even reached the property line. Her barking alerted not just the family, but the entire neighborhood. Mr. Garrison emerged from his house with a baseball bat. Mrs. Whitfield called 911 while live streaming the attempt on social media. Within minutes, the entire street was awake and ready. The would-be dog nappers found themselves surrounded by angry neighbors, 2 protective German shepherds, and arriving police units. They surrendered without a fight. "That's what community looks like," Detective Brooks said as the criminals were arrested. "You've changed this whole neighborhood, Marcus. People protect each other now." The incident made Bravo and Athena even more famous. But more importantly, it showed that their story had created something lasting, a network of people committed to protecting the vulnerable. As Marcus approached his 12th birthday, he received an unexpected gift. The military base commander called with an offer. "We're starting a new program, Junior Handlers. Kids 12 to 18 can train with military dogs under supervision. We want you to be our first participant." Marcus looked at Bravo, whose tail was wagging despite his arthritis. "Can Bravo come too? As a mentor dog?" "We were hoping you'd ask. He'll be our training assistant, teaching the young dogs what it really means to serve." The program was everything Marcus had dreamed of. Every Saturday, he and Bravo would go to the base. Marcus would work with young dogs, teaching them basic commands and socialization. Bravo would demonstrate, showing them by example. One day, a particularly difficult dog arrived, a young Belgian Malinois named Storm, who trusted no one. He had been abused before being rescued, and even experienced trainers couldn't reach him. "Let me try," Marcus said. He sat in Storm's kennel for 3 hours, not trying to touch or command, just reading aloud from a book. Bravo lay beside him, calm and patient. Finally, Storm crept forward, drawn by the gentleness he'd never experienced. Within a month, Storm was transformed. The base commander was amazed. "You have a gift, Marcus." "The same gift that saved Bravo." "It's not a gift," Marcus replied. "It's just love, and patience, and seeing what could be instead of what is." As Bravo's 14th birthday approached, his health declined more noticeably. His back legs were very weak now. Some days were harder than others, but his spirit remained, it unbroken. Marcus had grown too, tall for his age, thoughtful, mature beyond his years. He'd started high school early and was already taking advanced placement courses. His teachers said he could go to any college he wanted, but Marcus's path was clear. "I'm going to become a veterinarian," he announced, specializing in military and service dogs. "I want to give back to the dogs who give us everything." Bravo was lying beside him when he said it, and the old dog's tail thumped approval. That winter, Bravo's condition worsened. He could barely walk, though he still tried to follow Marcus everywhere. Dr. Reeves was gentle but honest. "He's not in pain yet, but he's tired. His body is failing. You need to start preparing yourself." Marcus nodded, tears in his eyes. "I know, but not yet. He'll tell me when he's ready," and Bravo did. One morning in spring, he couldn't stand up. Marcus found him in his bed, alert but unable to rise. The look in his eyes was clear. It was time. The whole family went to the clinic. Sarah flew in from across the country. Samuel was there, and Detective Brooks, and even Mr. Garrison and Mrs. Whitfield Bravo had touched so many lives. Dr. Reeves had prepared a special room filled with Bravo's favorite things. His old military collar, the first toy Marcus had given him, pictures of Sergeant Cooper and Marcus together. "You're the best dog in the world," Marcus whispered, holding Bravo's graying head. "You saved me. You saved so many people. You showed us all what courage looks like." Bravo's tail wagged weakly. He looked at each person in the room as if saying goodbye. Then his eyes returned to Marcus and stayed there. "Sergeant Cooper is waiting for you," Marcus said through his tears. "You can go to him. Your mission here is complete." Bravo took one deep breath, licked Marcus's hand, and closed his eyes for the last time. The entire room erupted in tears. Even Detective Brooks, the tough cop, was sobbing. They'd lost more than a dog. They'd lost a hero, a teacher, a friend. Bravo's funeral was attended by hundreds: military personnel, police officers, families he'd helped, children he'd comforted. The flag on his coffin was folded and presented to Marcus, who held it like the treasure it was. Colonel Mitchell, now retired, gave the eulogy. Bravo served with distinction in war and peace. He protected the innocent, exposed the corrupt, and taught us all that love is the most powerful force in the universe. He was a warrior, but more than that, he was proof that even the most broken among us can be healed. Marcus spoke last. "Bravo came into my life when he needed me most. But the truth is, I needed him too. He taught me to be brave, to stand up for what's right, to never give up on anyone. He may be gone, but what he taught us lives on, in every dog we rescue, in every person we help, in every moment we choose love over fear." As they lowered Bravo's coffin into the ground at the military cemetery, a formation of military dogs and their handlers stood at attention. Athena, wearing Bravo's old service vest, howled, a sound of grief and tribute that echoed across the cemetery. That night, Marcus sat in his room, holding Bravo's collar. Athena was beside him, her head on his lap, grieving in her own way. "He's not really gone," Marcus told her. "Every dog we save, every person we help, that's Bravo living on." Athena looked up at him, with eyes that seemed to understand. The next morning, Marcus made a decision. He started the Bravo Foundation, dedicated to rescuing and rehabilitating military and service dogs. Within a week, donations poured in from around the world. The first dog the foundation saved was a German shepherd named Hope, found abandoned at a truck stop, pregnant and starving. She reminded Marcus so much of how Bravo had looked that first night. As Marcus knelt beside Hope, offering her food, she looked at him with the same mixture of fear and hope that Bravo had shown. And Marcus knew this was how Bravo lived on, in every act of kindness, in every second chance, in every moment of courage. 5 years later, Marcus stood at the podium of his high school graduation as valedictorian. Athena sat beside him, gray now around her own muzzle, but still proud and strong. 6 years ago, Marcus began his speech, I found a dog under a car. That dog changed my life and the lives of countless others. He taught me that heroes don't always wear capes or uniforms. Sometimes they have 4 legs and fur. Sometimes they're the ones everyone else has given up on. He looked out at the audience. His mother, Sarah, and her family, Samuel, Detective Brooks, Doctor, Reeves, and so many others who'd been part of their journey. Bravo isn't here today in body, but he's here in spirit. In the 23 dogs the Bravo Foundation has saved, in the veterans who found healing through his story, in the community that learned to protect instead of reject, and in me, a scared little boy who learned to be brave because a dog showed him how. Marcus held up his acceptance letter to veterinary school. This isn't the end of our story. It's just the beginning, because every day there are dogs like Bravo out there, heroes waiting to be rescued, souls waiting to be saved. And as long as I live, I'll be there for them. That's my promise to Bravo. That's my promise to all of you. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes, but Marcus barely heard it. He was thinking about Bravo, about that first night, about how one moment of compassion had changed everything. As he left the stage, Athena by his side, Marcus looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, he knew Bravo was watching, tail wagging, proud of the man his boy had become. The Bravo Foundation grew into a national organization. Marcus, even while in veterinary school, remained its director. They saved hundreds of dogs, created therapy programs, and worked with the military to improve care for retired service animals. Every dog they saved was given the same promise Marcus had made to Bravo, that they would be loved, protected, and valued for who they were, not what they could do. And in every single one of those dogs, in their grateful eyes and wagging tails, Bravo lived on. If this story touched your heart, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear about the power of compassion and second chances. Subscribe to hear more incredible stories of courage, love, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. And comment below, where are you watching from, and what rescue animal has changed your life? Remember, every act of kindness, no matter how small, can change the world. Just ask Marcus and Bravo. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to be part of this community that believes in the power of love to heal all wounds.